Angie and Artie Maitland, two innocent kids, on Wednesday, the 10th of April 2013, went out to the cinema and were never seen again. 10 years on from their disappearance, there have been no leads on what's happened to them, and the case has turned cold. Several theories help explain what happened to them, which I'll be going over, but none have a happy ending. Buckle up and prepare yourself. This is about to get very dark. To work out their fate, we first need to dissect who they are and their background. Angie and Artie Maitland are brother and sister, children to George Maitland, their father, and Mrs. Maitland, their mother, deceased. When their mother sadly died, Clara Oswald, a family friend, took it upon herself to become a nanny to them both. She came to stay for a week before she went off to travel to 101 places, and during that week, their mother died. Clara clearly has deep feelings for them, giving up on her childhood dream of travelling to look after them both. Clara Oswald soon became embroiled with a time traveller known as the Doctor, calling him 807 years in the past for help with the internet. The helpline was given to her by a woman in the shop, really one of his childhood friends turned enemy, known in this incarnation as Missy. This is where things went wrong, as soon Angie and Artie discover their nanny's a time traveller, discovering pictures of her with her so-called boyfriend in both 1983 and 1974 and go with her. They end up at Hedgewick's World of Wonders and get partly converted to Cybermen. Thankfully, they survive this time, but that doesn't sustain for long. With their dad next door, Clara asleep in a trance from a soporific sent to her from the Victorian era by Vastra, a Silurian, previous inhabitants of Earth. The Doctor is in charge of looking after them. They suggested going to the cinema, with the Doctor refusing till Clara awoke. They then suggested Blind Man's Bluff, where they took their chance and left. If only they knew what was going to happen next. By the time Clara awoke and told the Doctor they left, it was already too late. Even if it wasn't, Clara and the Doctor were too distracted and will only had time to realise when their fate was already sealed. Now we have explored their background and the day they disappeared, it is time to go over the only possible reasons they vanished and where they could be now. One deadly possibility is the terrifying Whispermen. With the Whispermen in both 1893 and on Trenzalore, the tomb of the Doctor, it is extremely likely they were in the present day. With them not afraid to kill Jenny, Vastra's wife, it might very well be the terrible possibility that they also killed Angie and Artie too, therefore never making it to the cinema. The Whispermen are not the only suspects, however, there are still two others. One being the one who put Clara and the Doctor together, Missy. If Missy is able to bring the Doctor and Clara together, it is very likely she has the twisted power to rip people apart too. Did Missy kill Angie and Artie to stop them getting in the way of the Doctor and Clara? It is another feasible scenario which would explain their sudden disappearance, but the last suspect is the most unexpected and depraved of them all. Perhaps the most sickening of all, chillingly dark for Doctor Who, is their own father, George Maitland. We don't know a lot about their dad, nor the suspicious circumstances of Mrs. Maitland's death. The only scene we got of him paints a very disturbing picture. All throughout his scene, he seems very keen to get Clara away from looking after Angie and Artie, the person who would ask the questions on their disappearance, telling her to take the night off and hoping he'll find someone soon. Why is he so desperate for his own children not to be looked after? And is he really looking for another nanny? Or is it all a lie to cover up his true intentions? If he is looking for a nanny, it might not really be because he is too busy, but because he has not built up a relationship with his own children, and nor does he want to make what happens next all the more easier. Isn't it strange we never get answers to his wife's, and now his children's deaths too? Why did Clara not notice their disappearance and question it? With thorough research, the answer lies in a book. Extracted from the short story Normality, in the book Heroes and Monsters, and it would seem with this theory, there are more monsters than heroes. Does it explain why Clara stopped being a nanny, and it wasn't because their father found another nanny, like he supposedly promised? It is here we learn their dad tells Clara he is coping well enough on his own. What happened to him needing a nanny and looking for one? All part of one big lie, and now Clara, the only one who would ask questions, is out the way. He could finally get on with making sure their trip to the cinema was their last. Now we've established several plausible theories for their death, the next question which remains to be answered is, why there were no trace of them? Well, the answer to that goes all the way back to Series 5. The crack in the wall originated from Series 5, two parts of space and time which should never have touched, a structural weakness in the universe. If coming into contact with any matter in the universe, permanently erases it forever. It had happened to a Doctor's companion, so it's very likely it could have happened again. How though? In the time of the Doctor runs his hand past the crack, erasing them from his memory, and Clara, even worse. She spends a prolonged time directly in front of it, and once it was done with her, it closed. Yes, the Time Lords were using it to ask a question, but that doesn't mean the crack wasn't absorbing and erasing at the same time. Eerily so, it would seem, what the crack wiped were two of the closest people to Clara, Angie and Artie. Right up until the moment she comes into contact with the crack does she show signs of deeply caring for them both, as can be seen on Christmas Day in her house. A picture of Angie and another of Artie are displayed behind her on the book cabinet, but after this, that is the last ever reference to them, both ever again. The only difference between the pictures, up until they were never mentioned again, was the crack. Unfortunately, this was no coincidence at all. Another answer to their disappearance, discussed previously on my channel, has to do with the two different Claras. If you have watched it, then you will know Clara is two different people, known as Clara A in Series 7 and Clara B in Series 8 onwards. But for more information on this chilling theory, make sure to check it out. With Clara A being erased, perhaps it was not just herself who she erased walking into the Doctor's time stream, but Angie and Artie too. Maybe Angie and Artie were just figments of Clara's imagination mixed in with the Doctor's past, brought into reality when she stepped into his time stream, like all the other versions of Clara were created as well. How do we know this? The very first time we see Artie, he is reading a book by Amelia Williams, the deeply departed previous companion before Clara, also known as Amy Pond. Is this a real book, or just part of the Doctor's memory of Amy and another sign towards Angie and Artie not being real? Therefore, if it is, then when this version of Clara dies, so does Angie and Artie, only being able to exist with this version of Clara. It could be theorised Clara B was not fully Clara B till the 11th Doctor regenerated. Did Clara absorb the regeneration energy like Donna by accident, helping her to become Clara B fully, which is why the memory of Angie and Artie still exists even after her stepping into the Doctor's time stream? It would explain why 11 to 12's regeneration was so quick, with no regeneration energy flaring out everywhere, as Clara accidentally absorbed most of it. Also, isn't it weird Clara and Rose both were sent home in the finale of their first series to the exact same place? Another of the Doctor's memories manifesting in this version of Clara. Again, further proof Angie and Artie was not real either. This Clara could just be another version of the Clara splinters. After all, the Doctor himself says she doesn't look like a nanny to Angie and Artie. The sad reality is, we may never know what truly happened to the young lives of Angie and Artie, or what they'd be like now. With Doctor Who changing and changing and changing and changing again, it would seem the answers only get buried deeper the more the world moves on. Are they dead? Were they erased? Or did they even exist at all in the first place? Whilst most have forgotten these young lives, some still remember, and let's hope one day they return safe and sound, although the possibility of that looks more bleaker as time goes on. Have you seen these kids?